On this episode of the Wise Counsel Project, we interview Georgia Governor Nathan Deal. Join us as Governor Deal provides wise counsel to men and women of faith. Welcome to another episode of the Wise Counsel Project on 104.7 The Fish. Joining us today is the Honorable Nathan Deal, Georgia's 82nd Governor. It's an honor having you here. Thank you so much for your time and for being with us.
Thank you. Honored to be with you as well.
Well, great to see you again. And an impressive resume, bio, no doubt, but just want to hit some of the highlights. I know you're a Georgian native.
Right.
You served in the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service there.
Thank you.
Former prosecutor, judge, state senator, U.S. congressman,
Yes.
and a graduate of my law school, Mercer, in Macon.
Right.
And married to Sandra for 47 years.
Actually 48
48.
now.
Well,
Yes.
congratulations on the anniversary. 4 kids, 6 grandkids.
That's correct.
Wow. A very busy man. So again, thank you for the time, Governor.
Sorry.
We started the Wise Counsel Project based upon Proverbs 13:20. I'd love for you, if you would, to read that for us, and love to ask your thoughts, if I may, on this Bible verse.
Okay. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm.
Governor, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means be careful with whom you associate. Be careful of where you put yourself and what environment and the ones that you look to for advice and counsel. I think I have been very fortunate in that regard. I was born into a family of 2 public school teachers. They are the truest public servants that I have ever known.
That's
Some
great.
70 combined years of service to children and young people in our state. And then, of course, I grew up in the Baptist church. I had my confession of faith when I was 7 years old in a Baptist revival and was baptized in Sandersville Baptist Church. And from there, went through high school and then decided to go to Mercer University. And the reason that I decided to go to Mercer was that I was in competition. In those days, our Baptist Training Union had public speaking competitions. And one of my advisors got me in the competition. I was fortunate enough to go to the finals, and it was held on the campus of Mercer University. I had never been to Mercer University, although it was only about 60 miles from where I grew up. I really believed when I saw that campus that that's where I wanted to go to school. And of course, having the opportunity to go to a religious school was a great opportunity for me, because even though you were required to take Christianity courses, both Old and New Testament, in hindsight I have greatly gathered a lot of strength and basic information as a result of that. I taught Sunday school for over 20 years, was a deacon in my church and the chairman of my board of deacons during a very difficult time in the church history here at our church here in Gainesville. So I believe that when you associate with people who are wise, who have an understanding of the way to go, it benefits you greatly. I've seen others who have not had that same degree of counseling, and I've seen the results, which are not sometimes very good.
Right. And we can learn from the lessons of others, certainly.
Right.
What do you look for in the people that you surround yourself with as wise counselors?
Well, first of all, look at who they are as a person. What has been their life experience? Do they understand the conflicts and the struggles that ordinary people encounter? Or have they lived in a somewhat ivory tower world?
Right.
Sometimes in the political arena, you do get people who look at things only from a theoretical or educational point of view, but who've never experienced the kind of real problems that people encounter. As an attorney here in Gainesville, Georgia, I practice what I call street-level law. Mm-hmm. And that was in a small town. You handle the problems that people have no matter what those problems might be. That has given me a great insight into what really matters in people's lives. And I must confess that I have seen faith and the sustainment of prayers in the lives of people having very difficult situations truly make a difference.
And Governor, I appreciate you saying that. Faith is obviously important to you. It seems like in today's climate, so many politicians, those in the public service arena, want to shy away from talking about their faith. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's been so much criticism on the part of some who have a very different point of view of saying that we allow religion to unduly influence the actions and positions that government officials take. I don't believe that. I believe that Christian beliefs are the foundation stone for the creation of our country. It is what has sustained us through all of these generations, and we truly are the envy of the world. People can criticize our system of government, right, but nobody's ever figured out a better way. And many of those principles that are embodied in our laws are basic, fundamental Christian beliefs. And it's not a matter of mingling church and state. It is a matter of allowing the basic faith structure of individuals and of society as a whole to be not in conflict with their religion, but hopefully compatible with it.
It's freedom of, not freedom from.
Exactly, yes.
Well, to that point, I know Chestatee High School has been attacked recently. Here in Gainesville, Georgia, an atheist group is going after them for quoting scripture on team documents and the pregame banners, and because the coaches are leading prayers for the players. In two verses, they cited Galatians 6:9, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." And Proverbs 27:17, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." If Confucius had said that, they wouldn't have a problem with it. But they are morally offended because it's in the Bible. Governor, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, they have great difficulty as they read back through our historical documents that were written by our founding fathers for the very same reason. Our founding fathers were not ashamed to talk about the Creator, to talk about the power of the Almighty. It was a guiding source of strength for them in the creation of our original documents that created our republic. I don't think there should be any conflict today, but unfortunately we have seen those kind of issues put into our federal courts and try to be decided in a situation that does not always reconcile itself with, I think, what the reality is in fact.
Would love to talk about a couple of the initiatives that you have had as a big push in April and September of this year. In April, you created the Interfaith Council to address how convicted offenders are able to re-enter the workforce. Right. In September, the Healing Communities of Georgia to work with religious communities and congregations to reduce recidivism. Tell us why these initiatives are so important to you.
Well, first of all, this is the third leg of our criminal justice reform. We started on the front end of trying to divert nonviolent adults out of our prison system, and by the way, that is working remarkably well. We've reduced our jail backlog by over 90%. We've saved the state of Georgia about $24 million a year on just that part of it. In the first quarter of this year, we had about 4,100 people who are in accountability courts. That's drug courts, DUI courts, mental health courts, veterans courts, trying to deal with the problems that individuals face coming from various backgrounds, including, as I said, the veteran community. Now, almost all 4,100 of those would have been in our expensive $18,000 bed prison system, but for the front-end adjustments. We've been recognized, by the way, as having the best drug court system in the entire country. The second leg was juvenile justice reform, following a similar model, diverting those nonviolent juveniles out of our RYDCs and YDCs. And we're seeing the same kind of remarkable savings in dollars, but also changing directions of people's lives. The third leg was dealing with the most difficult part, and that is the 55 to 60,000 people who make up our prison population, almost all of whom at some point in time are going to be released. Either they will have served their entire sentence or they will be paroled. Now, we did a survey as to determine why is it that that 1 out of every 3 that's released is back in our system within 3 years or less. The major conclusion we reached was they don't have a high school diploma or a GED. 70% of them do not. So we're working on that aspect. We've hired one of the better local school superintendents, and I think you probably know him. He was the superintendent of the Forsyth County school system, one of the best school systems in our state. And Buster Evans is doing a great job as an assistant commissioner of our Department of Corrections, and we're going to change that dynamic. But even when we change that dynamic, when somebody has a major felony on their record and they are released, we want them to have a marketable job skill. But even with that, they have great difficulty because most of them have lost contact with their families. They've either been disowned or just lost altogether any support group in the civilian society. Churches can fill that void, and that's why we've reached out to the faith-based community, and we've had a great response. Because the pattern is, if someone's released from our prison, they go back to the same community where they got in trouble in the first place. And if the local community, including the faith-based community, does not provide some assistance for them, then the likelihood of them getting in more trouble is greatly increased. We want to have churches across our state who are going to say, we're willing to be a part of the solution. We recognize the importance of that. We want individuals who are in that situation to have a safe haven that they can come to ask us for counseling, to ask us to help them find a place to live, to ask us for helping them get a job. That's what churches do now.
Right.
But if this third leg of criminal justice reform is to be totally successful, we have to have their help in making it work.
And I'd love to get the link that we can share with our listeners and viewers at the end and on our website so they can find out more about how their congregation can get involved. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Wise Counsel Project. If you enjoyed it, please consider rating us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. And for more information about the Wise Counsel Project, visit us on the web, wisecounselproject.com. You can also follow me on Twitter @GaryMartinHayes. Thanks for listening, and God bless.